So I'm Kristin Eilenberg, and I am the CEO of Lodestone Logic. My company, Lodestone Logic, was named after this particular rock. This rock was found by the early journeymen, and what they realized was that this particular rock had certain properties, and as you can see, that paper clip is magnetized to the rock itself. And what they did was they broke this rock into smaller bits and pieces, and it was used for the early compasses. And what those compasses allowed those journeymen to do was to go on travels, be able to navigate where they were at, and then be able to return home with their riches. And that is the premise behind Lodestone Logic, is that we help companies navigate the opportunities and figure out the strategic opportunities so that they can take advantage of them. We focus in on life sciences, healthcare, but I have to tell you that what I love to do with our company and with our clients is work on really difficult problems and trying to assess all of the data elements that are out there and put the pieces of the puzzle together so that we can make sense of what's really happening. So my interest in STEM started at a very early age. In second grade, I have memories of me staying after school and doing DOS coding on a computer, the only computer that the school had, because this was back in the dark ages for some folks. And I did that a lot, and what I thought was so cool was that I could have the computer do calculations. In fifth grade, my school allowed me to take home the Apple IIe computer, on weekends and on extended holiday breaks. I remember sitting in our family living room with this massive computer. I mean, if you can imagine, by that time I was 12 years old, 10, 12 years old, and playing and doing things on this computer. And my parents had no idea what I was doing, but they knew that the school was supporting me bringing this home. And in hindsight, I can't believe that they allowed such a young child to bring home one of the school's major assets. And maybe it was just a matter of they didn't realize the implications of, losing that asset if the child didn't responsibly take care of it, but they trusted me. I remember in sixth grade doing my first set of genetics experiments and learning about, separated earlobes and all of those kinds of things, and being absolutely fascinated with how DNA, becomes who we are. Also at that time, I was spending a lot of time with patients that had cystic fibrosis. And so I was seeing how genetics was influencing individuals and how, in a positive and a negative way, science was helping these individuals live lives because of the discoveries that science was able to come to bear because of their understanding of the fact that this was a genetically based disease. So I had some fantastic teachers that supported my interest in biology, and I remember my freshman year, Mr. Brandonicio, who was always having us do very hands-on experiences when it came to understanding science, and that led to just continued interest into science. And then in my senior year, Mr. Bates, when we did growing of chicken embryos and dissecting them and understanding the different stages of development, and a lot of this is based off of things that are happening at the cellular level, but also when you look at how DNA changes and evolves over time, you can see how that ties into development. And then because of my experiences with cystic fibrosis, and then also by that time I was around patients with hemophilia and HIV/AIDS, I was very much exposed to virology. I have a 4.5-year-old, she's almost 5, and what I have always done is encouraged her to ask questions. And she's got books on space and astronauts and bugs and the human body. And I know they're not typical subjects for a 4-year-old, but my daughter loves it. And in fact, just last week we went to the Children's Museum here in Indianapolis, the best children's museum ever. And we got off the elevator, and as soon as we walked out of the elevator, she looked at me and she said, "Mommy, I smell science." And she bolted off as fast as she possibly could. Just this last weekend, at 4.5 years old, she was learning how to split DNA and what that means. Now, whether or not she actually retains that information, I don't know. But the fact that she was able to, in a tactile way, work with something in pipettes and following directions and all those kinds of things are really important to understanding how do you tackle a problem and get to some type of solution or resolution. And my daughter walks around now in an astronaut costume. Of course, I bought it for her when she was 2, but she walks around now telling everybody that she's going to be an astronaut when she grows up. And she loves to talk about the fact that she's going to go into space and do things. My advice to parents is to make sure that they're listening to their daughters. And when they ask to go to science camp, and when they ask to go do the non-typical types of things, that you support them and that you figure out how to get them into those activities. Because right now I think a lot of parents want to have them involved in swim class or ballet. And I'm not going to say that those are not good classes, but it's those other classes, like the one that I was involved in when I was in 2nd grade, that I think created experiences that were formative for me and the trajectory that I took with my life. Loving what I do, I think I'm just coming to the realization of how much I love this stuff and how much of a geek I am, and accepting it and embracing it, because when you look at the movies and you look at the stereotype of what that geek looks like with the glasses and the retainer and the hair that is kind of unkept, it's not a very glamorous type of stereotype. And that frustrates me. So it's probably no surprise to think, well, I'm not that person. I'm not that geek, or I never was that geek. But what I realize now that I'm 40 plus is that I probably was that geek. I didn't walk around with the retainer. Oh, actually I did. In 7th grade, I had that retainer. But I was fortunate to be in an environment that supported my interests. I mean, it wasn't a single instance where I had the epiphany of I wanted to go down these types of paths and do these types of things. I just felt compelled to be in these spaces. And fortunately, I had the support structure not only from my parents and my family, but from the educational program that was around me to keep nurturing these interests and helping do the things that I wanted to do. Everything that we do these days is based off of STEM. And people go, well, how is that possible? Well, it's everything from, what's your gas mileage in your car, to how do we efficiently run manufacturing lines so that we can understand the lowest waste that we create versus the highest productivity for the employees. Those are all mathematical types of assessments that require STEM training, STEM background, an understanding of how do you bring multiple points of data that don't typically fit together and mash them in together in a way that creates new insights and understanding of the world around us. And that's what I love about science.